Greetings. This is Top Hat and Buttered Popcorn. My name is John Savers. I'm your host, and today we'll look at a couple of films, beginning with The Last Castle. This film was directed by Rod Lurie and stars Robert Redford, James Gandolfini, Delroy Lindo. It may have also included Barry Pepper. At any rate, a cast of many. This is a professionally directed produced film, marred, I think, by an uneven script. Also, we do have Robert Redford appearing, and I thought his acting rather lightweight. He did not seem to me to be adequate to the task of playing this General Eugene Irwin. He would be better suited not to play this revered heroic general, but perhaps rather a retired surfboard king who is now advising wannabe kings of the surf. But at any rate, he did not really show too well here, I think. He had as a foil in this particular film the Gandolfini character, who I thought did quite well. He is taking a niche that is usually occupied by Rod Steiger, who, having grown too old, cannot now do this role. It's kind of up for grabs, and I think James Gandolfini has put his hat in the ring pretty well here. Now, this particular film deals with a three-star general of great note, West Point man, a man who has written a renowned book, a fighting general who has been in Vietnam and the Gulf War, etc., being thrown in a military prison for what appears to be dereliction of duty and insubordination, perhaps not following orders, leading to the death of 8 men. This particular film follows this general as he is in this particular prison structure, a formidable structure, which is called a castle. He acts in this role pretty much in a standard mutineer or insurrection mode. The thing is really kind of set up like Spartacus. If he is a sort of a correlative, as it were, of a slave uprising within a slave tolerating society. It is a program, film that I think misses the boat in a number of ways. First of all, it is misguided and has to go to extraordinary lengths to try to make itself credible. The character played by Robert Redford seems altogether vain and contemptible to me, if not silly. But at any rate, the film opens up with a narration of the Robert Redford character as he has been sentenced and is being transported to this particular facility known as the castle. The film opens up, I think, rather well to this extent that we find Robert Redford terse and rather sober-looking, poker-faced. He is not a person who gets on your nerves at the very outset, but he is processed initially, and this part is perhaps the very best in terms of credibility in this film. At the very outset, we meet also James Gandolfini's Colonel Wynter. Colonel Wynter seems at the very outset to be a responsible type of officer in command of this facility. When it's noted who is being brought to this facility, at one point he shows his respect for the man by saying words to the effect, they should be naming bases after this man, and here he is, he's being brought to our facility, but we have no choice. We are the commander here. We're military men. We have to follow our orders and follow procedure and so forth, and treat him accordingly as an inmate. He invites, actually, the Robert Redford character, General Eugene Irwin, to join him at his office. He treats him respectfully, offers him lemonade, asks if he will autograph a book which General Irwin has written called The Burden of Command, a burden which he does not seem to have shouldered well. He seems to have, as a matter of fact, developed something of the personality of the Marlon Brando run-amok officer in Apocalypse Now. He has lost perspective. His vanity is such that he is a marred person. He seems lightweight. He seems to view everything as a kind of war game or something of this sort, to have a fundamental inability to note the seriousness of a situation, and therefore is not really a responsible man. This also comes out in his marital relationships. He is shown to be a poor father. It may be said that for him, grunts are his real children, but that did leave his daughter out in the cold, more or less, virtually orphaned. And for General Irwin, arms have a strictly military context as a tool of war and have nothing to do with familial warmth. At the Colonel Wynter Diggs' office, while Colonel Winters goes off to fetch the book for General Irwin to autograph, he is condescending and patronizing toward this colonel, I think. And while this colonel goes to get the book, he gets up and looks at the colonel's collection of war memorabilia and gives forth some very snide and inappropriate comments about the collection. I say this because there are many soldiers who have collected war memorabilia. And in fact, every branch of the military has a museum with war memorabilia, so that his comments seem to me to be both incorrect and supercilious beyond toleration. Gandolfini has heard the comments, and it has offended him, and he puts back the book and comes back and claims that it has been temporarily misplaced and so forth. Maybe I'll get an autograph at another time. He does take the time at this point to show the Redford character of the prison, pointing out the various structures, the courtyard, and so forth. Having done all these things to treat General Irwin in a respectful way, as is consistent with his position as the commanding officer of this military corrections institution, he now has to point out that it's time for the general to take his position in the cell. Now, from the very moment that he has entered the facility, there have been rather large numbers of gawking inmates speculating about just how long it would take the general to collapse in a quivering heap, committing suicide, unable to take this facility. This is altogether curious because it is well known that General Irwin is a former prisoner of war in Vietnam who had been tortured by the North Vietnamese host of the prison facility that kept him, and that he had stayed alive. In fact, one of the other inmates here, a doctor as I recall, has actually had a father who was a prisoner of war at the same time that the General Irwin was, knew him and so forth, and had fine things to say about him. Well, at any rate, they seem to have an idea that he's weak, and of course, by implication, they think of themselves as quite strong, perhaps superior to the general as a man. Well, this film is not going to let this stand, for sure. Well, in the prison, we see the usual milieu. We see tattooed beef pushing metal, playing b-ball, and milling about, and so forth. There is a usual prison vice, such as gambling and whatnot. We have Redford getting acquainted with some of the people. He meets a former Marine named Aguilar who has a problem with stuttering. We mention this because this was a problem which also appeared on one of the soldiers in the film Pearl Harbor, which apparently was used in that film anyway as a kind of a source of humor. We wonder if Hollywood thinks that stuttering is some sort of a comical situation and so forth. This is not commendable. At any rate, we have him meeting the doctor, and there's also the guy who kind of a shirking fellow of some sort or other who handles gambling. I'm not sure that's the doctor or another guy, the prisoner of war. But at any rate, he does run across the various types as a former sergeant major and so forth. There is an incident in which this Aguilar insists on saluting Eugene Irwin, now inmate. We see Irwin giving a little history of the origins of salute and doing this. Now, when he was in Gandolfini's office, Colonel Wynter's, it was specifically told to him that there were certain rules amongst which no saluting, because all inmates are equal and none are officers. So this was taboo. It's noted by Gandolfini, who punishes the Aguilar character by forcing him to spend the entire night in a salute position. It's raining, it's nasty and whatnot. Next day, he's still out there. Dawn breaks. The former General Eugene Irwin goes forward. He sees this. It looks like some of the military correctional people, including the Barry Pepper-esque guy, right-hand man of Gandolfini's, may be abusing Aguilar. Anyway, Eugene Irwin intrudes and is himself arrested, locked for punishment for interfering with corrections of personnel. He is made to move stones from one point to another. There are about 25 points each, according to the story. They're there for the inmates to utilize to make a wall within the courtyard. So this gives Robert Redford an opportunity to take off his shirt. We see that he has these scars on his back and whatnot, and this episode helps him to win over the respect of the other inmates, and he succeeds, and it's kind of a one-upping of James Gandolfini's Colonel Wynter by actually being able to do it. Now, it would not do in this particular film for Gandolfini's character to be a respectable officer, because we are meant to take the sides of Redford and his insurrection inmate army. Therefore, increasingly, we see Gandolfini depicted as abnormal. This is clued to us by his listening to classical music, a sure sign by Hollywood standards of mental abnormality and perhaps sexual perversion to boot. True to form, he begins to depict characteristics suggestive of Captain Queeg and the Cain Mutiny, and Captain Bligh and Mutiny on the Bounty. This is to give us a kind of rationale, as it were, to be sympathetic to the Redford character. There is brooded about scuttlebutt amongst the inmates that some prisoners are killed. They use rubber bullets to put down disturbances in the courtyard, etc. There are towers all around the courtyard manned by these corrections people, all armed with these kinds of weapons. We see a few incidences, one involving Aguilar, in which these people are shown to sort of enjoy. There's an implication of sadism in the use of these rubber bullets to shoot the prisoners. Now, Hollywood has to be very careful in its condemnation of the use of rubber bullets and whatnot, as it is a very favored technique by the Israelis in putting down the Palestinians. So it must be done in conjunction with a depiction by the guards of cruelty, of smiling, of enjoying it, and so forth, which is done. Well, by this time, Robert Redford's character has already kind of gotten the idea of war games here, the idea of taking over the castle from within, and no use of any kind of Trojan horse to boot. Be quite a feat. He thinks it can be done. He, meanwhile, has a technique of saluting, non-saluting, in which what appears to be a salute dissolves into a pulling back of the hair, slicking back the hair, and so forth. Caught on by all the inmates, and it is a clear, objective, insubordinate sort of attitude. Something which could lead to trouble, and something that the administration of a military corrections facility would not want to encourage. Well, as we say, Redford is beginning to look more like he could be elected king of the inmates here, while Gandolfini is beginning to look more and more like a villain. He is dividing his army, so to speak, his military men into color-coded units for anticipated combat. There are, after all, finks in the prison, and he's gotten word about a possible insurrection. It looks like the Robert Redford character is not too quiet about his plans in this regard. He begins to think about ways to neutralize the military hardware, so to speak, of Colonel Wynter, who has a helicopter and who also has a water cannon tank, so that those would have to be neutralized, plus the towers where they have these gunmen, military guards, and so forth. So the wheels are turning in Redford for leading an insurrection. The pretext, of course, is the abuse of power and failure to administer the laws according to the books, but violating the law, the manual, so to speak. Now, Robert Redford is certainly not a guy who goes by the book. He may have written a book, but we already know from his own behavior that he's a vain and light fellow who does not follow the book himself. But at any rate, we do get all this coming to a head, and finally there is an opportunity before they come to blows to get Redford out of there. This brings in Delroy Lindo, a general who apparently is in the overseeing Colonel Wynter and has some sort of psychological degree or other, who offers in a private chat with Robert Redford's character. General Irwin had pinned the star on General Wheeler, Lindo's character, to get him out, just pretend like he's nuts and so forth, take him over to a mental institution for about 3 months or so, declare that he's well, let him go home to his family and his grandson he hardly knows and so forth in sweet retirement. Can't do that. We're supposed to believe that General Irwin has too much integrity for that. So he goes back and General Wheeler accepts it, goes off, and so we know that there's got to be a conflict here. The sides led by General Irwin have gotten together their neutralizing material and at the right moment they come to blows and the General Irwin, his forces, his inmate army, overcome Gandolfini's forces, overcome Gandolfini's helicopter, his water cannon, his guards, the whole 9 yards. They've also stolen his flag, purloined the flag he has in his office at some earlier point. It's hidden away and now in the possession of Robert Redford. He has threatened to fly the flag upside down from the castle, and this would be an international indication of distress at the facility, begging for help. And it would also be a sure indication that Colonel Wynter had lost control of the prison and therefore was unfit to be the head of it. Well, we do have by this time again Gandolfini's character almost blithering, and in the end, as General Irwin is walking to the flagpole to hoist the flag, which Colonel Wynter thinks will be done upside down, much to his disgrace. Colonel Wynter pulls a gun and shoots General Irwin, who nevertheless managed to get the flag up. So we see him dying in sort of a heroic mode here. The colonel is arrested by the Barry Pepper-esque person who has been more or less contemplating his own insurrection. We see a convoy being led by General Wheeler, who has gotten word of the situation and bringing his own force to neutralize the insurrection, put things in order again. So we have all these things happening, and we're supposed to now take a favorable look at General Irwin as basically a patriot trying to do the right thing and so forth, when in point of fact he is someone who has fomented an insurrection, that he has violated chain of command, and that he is himself worthy virtually of execution for his crimes. At any rate, the thing comes to a head with the wounds. Redford dies, and we see that he has flown the flag right side up. After all, we see it waving in the air, and this is supposed to stir patriotic feelings and feelings of warmth toward the general. And of course, his adversary is such an awful person by this point in time that there's no way to be sympathetic toward him. Well, we have a kind of an epilogue in which we find the inmates building a wall from the stones that at one point Redford had to heave back and forth. The wall is almost completed. We see that one of the stones has Aguilar, the Marine, who has died, been murdered more or less from their point of view by the guards. At any rate, he is chiseled on one of the stones, and there are other names and so forth. And then we run across the General Irwin, U.S. Army, with some faint suggestion of stars to boot. So there they all are, looking rather reverential toward all this, and of course the audience is also supposed to do this. Are we supposed to take this wall as being some sort of correlative of the wall on the mall? I think that this is a pretty disgusting kind of situation here, and kind of a overt trivializing of the Vietnam Memorial by putting together as a correlative this thing. So I say I don't like this film. I think that it has all kinds of wrong-headed messages in it, and I would not recommend that anyone pay to see it.